What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and welcome to the first episode of 2021. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a very happy, healthy celebration, however you could. And yeah, we're going to get through this year just like we made it through last year. If there was one thing we learned from 2020, it was that regardless of everything, all the craziness happening around us, we can still have a ton of things to be grateful and thankful for. And I'm thankful for you hanging out with me today on this episode. So I figured there would be no better way to kick off this new year than to do a Micro Brand Monday. So we have a box here. Seems like kind of a simple white cardboard box with some duct tape. And it says NR1B. I have no idea what that is referring to, but we're gonna crack this baby open and see what's inside. It is 1:07 p.m. Let's get down to business. All right, guys, so again, no markings other than that code. It's funny because it says NR1B, but then it also looks like maybe that was supposed to be a P. I don't know. I think I know who sent me this watch because I saw the shipping label, but I have no idea what that is referring. All right. Of course, micro brand has to come in a watch roll. I don't know why that's a thing, but it is. Every micro brand, it seems like, gets shipped to the reviewers in a watch roll. I'm not hating on it. It's just, an observation. Okay, here is the first clue. Forteller watches. I've never heard of them. That is up until they emailed me and DM'd me on Instagram at The Simple Consultant. So they are very, very interested in being a part of Micro Brand Monday. Special thanks to them for sponsoring this episode, by the way. We can't make this content without these companies supporting the channel. But yeah, they were very on top of it. They emailed me, they DM'd me, they followed up, and I was like, okay. In the new year, we're gonna get you in. So let's see what they have in store. I think I see a strap. This looks like a silicone diving strap. We can see some grippies here on the underside so that the watch will not be sliding around your wrists. Okay, very nice, very nice. We'll put this to the side. Ooh, we see a kind of a brown, kind of mid-tone brown leather strap. Okay, this is a spring bar tool. Another spring bar tool. Ooh, this one's blue though. And it looks like it has interchangeable tips. So if you want the pokey thing or the prong thing. But here's what we're all here for. The watch. Let's zoom in and take a look, yeah? All right, guys, here it is. The Forteller watches. It looks to be like a dive watch, right? What is the name of this watch? Well, if we look down by the date complication right above that, it says the Cambrian, and we're gonna get a close-up shot of all that font. We'll talk about it in a moment. So the Forteller Cambrian dive watch. Now, when I first heard the name of this watch via their media specification sheet, I was like, oh, Coheed and Cambria. That's immediately what it reminded me of. A band I used to listen to all the time, and they have a bunch of like comic books and everything as well. But that's not, I don't think this has anything to do with the band. Obviously, this is a watchmaker. We see a signed crown that is correlating to the logo up here as well. We're going to talk about the logo and everything on the dial because, of course, it's pretty important. People are sticklers for what they have to look at when the watch is on their wrist. So let's get even closer, and we'll put the watch down and talk about the specifications before we kind of talk about how it feels and how it functions and everything. So let's first just talk about everything this watch offers. Oh yeah, let's talk about specs, baby. Time to go over the spec sheet of the Forteller watches Cambrian that we have here before us. But first, guys, did you know the Cambrian period was the first geological period of the Paleozoic era, and it lasted 55.6 million years? But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I just wanted to show you guys I'm super educated and intelligent. This watch is constructed by 316L stainless steel. That is very common when we're looking at any stainless steel sports watches for the most part. You know, very common, but not a ding. I'm not trying to speak badly about that material. It's just we don't really need to talk about it because we see it all the freaking time. It does have a sapphire crystal with 3 layers of AR coating, and the crystal is 2.8 millimeters thick. We can see the watch is moving already, and we didn't have to, you know, pull the crown out. There was no crown stopper. It's not tick, tick, ticking, so that's not a quartz watch. I also didn't have to hand wind it, which means this is an automatic watch, and it's using the very prolific workhorse Seiko Instruments NH35 automatic movement. Another thing we don't really need to spend too much time on, because especially when we're looking at micro-brand watches, I almost want to say 9 times out of 10, but of course there are Miyota movements that are fairly common, and sometimes with the more expensive micro-brands you will find Sellita SW200 ones, but for the most part, like 9 times out of 10 on a micro-brand watch with an automatic movement, it is using a Seiko Instruments NH35. Again, accurate enough, workhorse, reliable, hacking, hand wind, and a date complication, and they chose to display it down by the 6 o'clock, which of course is much better than the 4 or 4:30 position. So in my opinion, if you have a date complication, just put it at the 3 o'clock or the 6 o'clock and I'll be happy. We'll close in on that complication in a moment and we'll talk about it. And guys, while we're talking about specs, we gotta mention the Super Luminova BGW9 C3 Super Luminova Lume. I think it could be better. The handset is bright. There is some on the bezel. I think it could be brighter, but definitely not the worst we've seen. Yeah, so if you like blue Lume, this is the way to go. Now, what I will say is, for some reason, this BGW9 blue Super Luminova Lume just does not glow as well as some of the green toned Lumes. And of course, you know, comparing it to Seiko's Lumibright, it's not even fair, but yep, there you go. All right, guys, so now that we know a little bit more about this watch has to offer, let's go ahead and check the functionality of it overall. We'll check the crown setting and function and that bezel, because when we see a dive watch with a timing bezel, I really want to know if it's actually usable as a timing instrument, right? There's nothing worse than a timing bezel on a sports watch and having it have, you know, a ton of play and it being super sloppy. I just don't like that. So first, let's check out the crown setting and function. Now I believe, yes, this watch does have a threaded crown. Pretty smooth when we're unthreading it. Let's actually, before we check the crown setting, let's see if we can thread it up easily. It's binding a little bit. Okie dokie. Had me a little worried at the beginning, but when you line it up properly, it is nice and smooth. So very easy to unthread. And a tiny bit of binding when you're threading it back up, but by far not the worst. We've had a few micro-brand watches here that it was, you know, near impossible to rethread. So now that we have it unthreaded, let's go ahead and check the hacking ability. So we can see when we pull the crown out at the final position, the second hand stops. So you can, you know, align this to another time source, whether it be another watch or your phone or just another time source. You can literally align it to the second. Put it back in. Now we will put it to the first position and see that date complication. We will cycle through the dates there down by the 6 o'clock. Everything is clicking into place. Very good. Now let's go ahead and move the handset around. Pretty standard stuff here, guys. Nice and smooth. All right, let's thread this baby up and let's check the bezel. All right. Very positive ratcheting feel and sound. You can probably hear it from the mic. Let's align it to that minute hand and see if we can actually use it. Yeah, like zero play in that bezel. I love to see it, guys. Again, there's nothing worse than trying to align that pip to some area on, whether it be an index or a hand, and then have it like click back a few clicks. It's just, I hate sloppy bezels. So very nice job, Forteller, for giving us, a proper tight bezel. Let's align that to that minute hand. Very cool. All right, guys, so as we close in on this 6 o'clock date complication, we can see a little bit of font above it. We can see it says Cambrian, 1,000 feet or 300 meters. So this watch is rated with a 300 meter water resistance rating to go along with that threaded crown. Now, here comes my first critique, okay? I don't know if I'm just being a stickler. I don't know if it's just the way I'm looking at the watch, although I'm literally right above it looking, top down. It seems like the date wheel inside this date window is a little bit misaligned, like a tad bit. It looks like the 28 is a little bit closer to the right side of the date window border than it is to the left. So, again, I don't know if it's just my eyes. You can comment in the comment section below and see if you can see it as well. So it looks like it's a little bit canted to the, or I should say bias to the right. But with this shot right here, I can give the watch a compliment as well, because we can really see that almost fume gradient dial over by the chapter ring and kind of halfway through the indexes. It's very dark, but then it kind of just flows into a lighter blue, very deep colorway over towards the spindle. So if you're interested in this kind of dynamic fume design, then this is definitely a watch that you can consider. Now, here, of course, we have to spend a few moments and talk about the logo. So this is the Forteller watch's logo. It is, I don't want to say oversized, it's definitely not small. It looks to be of similar size to that 12 o'clock index. Now, one thing I do like is there's not a whole lot of font alongside this large logo. So if it had this larger logo and then a ton of writing underneath it, I would be, I don't know, not overwhelmed, but I think it would be a bit much. So I kind of appreciate that it has this logo. Sure, it's a little on the larger side, but then it has minimal signage elsewhere. So literally the only font that you have other than that logo is where it says Cambrian in very, very small letters, and then it has the water resistance rating under that. So not a whole lot of, again, people complain about sports watches, specifically dive watches, because they say that they have paragraphs on the dial, and I absolutely understand what people are talking about. Oftentimes when we look at these dive watches, it has a logo, but then it also has the company's name, and then there's a whole bunch of font talking about the specifications and this and that, all on the dial. We don't need that, okay? Just a simple title, a logo, and then maybe the water resistance rating if you want that. I think that Forteller pulled it off with this watch. It's not a whole lot of signage. It's a tasteful logo. It's a unique logo. It's not anything off-putting or offensive to the eye. It's not like some crazy thing. And yeah, but of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I want to hear what you guys think. Please leave me a comment. What do you think about the Forteller watch's logo? Now, one thing I want to mention when we're talking about the dial are the indexes. They're all applied and they look pretty prim and proper. We've taken a look at some micro brands and some watches from some larger manufacturers where the indexes are a bit sloppy. They have some adhesive on them, or they're just kind of cattywampus on the dial, but these all look pretty precise and true, and I love how the borders are mirrored. So as that second hand glides across them, you can really see the reflection of that second hand on the index borders. It's just a really tasteful, simple thing to pull off, and I think Forteller did it very nicely. All all in all, when we're looking at the dial of the watch, it really does play with the light very beautifully. Of course, you can see that reflection on that hour hand as the second hand glides across it. We can see the beautiful fume with that light, of course, really glowing in the middle of the dial towards the spindle, and then of course around the chapter ring and the indexes it's a little bit darker. And I really do of course enjoy that 6 o'clock date window is bordered as well with an integrated index there, so you can get a little more lume underneath that. So all in all, beautiful watch when it comes to how it plays with the light. Sharp handset, second hand looks very nice, and the indexes just play with that dial perfectly. Now, of course, there's more to a watch than just the dial, so let's go ahead and kind of examine this case a little bit. We can see, of course, that signed crown. I showed it to you earlier. One of my favorite parts about sports watches are when they come with drilled lugs. That's right, guys. So if we were to swap this watch out with the supplied silicone rubber strap, let's say we wanted to get this wet, but we didn't want to wear it on a bracelet, we wouldn't have to worry about sticking a spring bar tool underneath here and fitting it in that small space, and then you might like slip and cut yourself, put the spring bar tool underneath your fingernail, which I do all the freaking time because I never learned my lesson. You don't have to worry about scratching the lugs or anything because that drilled lug just allows you to boop, stick it in, poke it out, and swap them out. Very nice. Here, let's go ahead and take a look at the clasp. Now, people want me to talk about the bracelets. I really only like talking about the bracelets when the watch is on my wrist because that will give me kind of the best feel. But here we can see kind of a pseudo oyster link, if you want to call it that. That's kind of what I'd compare it to. And then Clasp has that Forteller watches logo, but there's something underneath that I think is very interesting. Check that out. Maybe this is a creature from the Cambrian period. That's right, guys, this is a trilobite, which is one of the earliest known arthropods. Of course, they are extinct, but it is kind of a very early marine creature, so it does correlate not only with the name of the watch, but with this watch being, a diver. Now, guys, of course, I want to put the watch on my wrist and see how it feels and tell you what I think, but we can't do that until we break out the digital calipers and measure the dang thing. Because of course the spec sheet tells me all the metrics, but I don't trust any of the watchmakers. I gotta see for myself and I gotta test it for myself. So let's get right into it. Let's exclude any form of crown or crown guard. Now, of course, this is more of a classic case shape, so this diver does not have any integrated crown guards to speak of at all. It does have a crown, of course, so let's exclude the crown. And at the widest point of the case, we can see this watch measures in right about 40 millimeters on the button, actually. Let's go ahead and check the case thickness. 14.2 millimeters thick. But the most important measurement, I think, is the lug to lug. That will tell you the most about how much real estate the watch will take up on your wrist. 47.1 millimeter lug to lug. So under 50 millimeter lug to lug, and right at that 40 millimeter sweet spot when we're talking about diameter. Let's go ahead and put the watch on the wrist, and then I want to go ahead, use the supplied spring bar tool and see what it feels like with the silicone strap. How about that? But first, let's check out the bracelet. All right, so here it is. The Forteller watch's Cambrian on my 7.5-inch wrist, and we can really see that sub 50 millimeter lug to lug is perfect on my wrist. It does not encompass the whole entirety of my wrist. There's still, a tasteful amount of wrist exposed. I really don't like it when the lugs hang off my wrist. It's just, that would have to be a ginormous watch. But what I'm most interested in, I think this watch will look really cool on a silicone diving strap. I think that it'll make the watch look even sportier and even more functional, because I don't know about you, when it gets really hot out, I don't like wearing my watches on bracelets, And so when I'm at the beach going out and about, I actually enjoy wearing my watches more on various forms of straps, whether it be sailcloth or sometimes even rubber straps. But I don't know, I just don't, like even my Seiko Tuna, I prefer it on a Zulu strap over the bracelet. But different strokes for different folks. This bracelet is not a hair puller from what I can feel right now. Feels comfortable. There's no sag or stretch in it. But yeah, let's go ahead and use the supplied spring bar tool and use the supplied strap and see what it looks like. All right, guys, I removed the bracelet and it literally took me like 2 seconds thanks to those drilled lugs. So I didn't even think to film it. But one thing I did want to show you real quick is that upon moving the bracelet, we can see the end links are solid. So this will help mitigate any rattling. Very nice added detail, solid end links. I know a lot of my viewers really do appreciate that. But let's go ahead and throw on this diving strap and see how it feels, see how it looks. And again, I think it's gonna make it look even sportier. Let's check it out. Guys, one thing I did not notice when I first saw the strap is it utilizes quick release spring bars. So it really does feel like Forteller puts a premium on convenience and ease. You know, it's one thing to have a nice product, but the usability has to also be there. And it seems like this watchmaker really does care about the ease of use to the end consumer. So whether it be, you know, replacing a watch strap or taking off the bracelet, those drilled lugs, the supplied spring bar tools, the supplied straps, and of course the quick release spring bars on the straps, that's a big thumbs up from me. All right, so here's the Cambrian on that silicone diving strap. We can see the buckle is etched Forteller, and this is just that much, you know, lighter and more comfortable in my opinion than the bracelet. Feels sportier, and again, still super functional because this is waterproof. So if you were to use this at the beach, you wouldn't have to worry about it. Now guys, there's one more thing I want to bring up. I go through fads when it comes to my watches. Sometimes I'm a NATO strap fanatic. Sometimes I'm a sailcloth strap fanatic. Sometimes all of my watches need to be on leather straps, even my dive watches. Which brings me to my next point. They supplied us with a leather strap. So shall we commit the ultimate sin and place a leather strap on a dive watch? Yes, we will, because it has a quick release spring bar system and it's just gonna be super easy, so let's do it. Uh-oh, uh-oh. A leather strap on a dive watch. Now here's what I'll say about the strap, okay? It feels thick, it feels of quality, so it doesn't feel cheap or like cardboardy, but it's not as supple as I'd like it. And the cool thing about this leather is that it's gonna look more weathered the more you wear it. So again, doesn't feel like a cheap strap, but it's not as soft as I'd like it. But let's go ahead and talk about the watch as a whole, and we'll stack it up against the price, and we'll see how we feel about this thing after spending a few minutes with it on the wrist. Okay, so after spending some time with this Forteller watch's Cambrian, you are getting a sapphire crystal, AR coating, you're getting a automatic movement with hacking and hand wind and a date complication. Of course, it is a Seiko Instruments NH35, excuse me, automatic movement. You're getting a threaded crown with a 300 meter water resistance rating. You're getting a very functional timing bezel. You're getting those drilled lugs that make swapping out the straps or bracelets a breeze. And this is listed currently at 169 euros, which is right around 207 US dollars. So for well under 300 bucks, you're getting a very competent, very handsome dive watch, and the size metrics are just totally there, well within the sweet spot. Sub 50 millimeter lug to lug, and right on that 40 millimeter diameter, and a 20 millimeter strap width or lug width. So, you know, any 20 millimeter strap that your little heart desires can fit on this watch. Here's what I'm gonna say, and this is gonna be pretty controversial, I think, okay? In the truest sense of the word, this is giving me homage vibes to like a Tudor. Okay, I think it's the classic case shape with no crown guards and something about the bezel. It's giving me kind of Pelagos, maybe even Black Bay vibes. Not so much the dial, but definitely the case shape and the bezel look. What would I get if it was between a sub $300 Cambrian or a few $1,000 Black Bay, I would get the Cambrian in a heartbeat. Okay, so this isn't close enough of a lookalike to really say, by the watch world's definition of an homage, to classify this as an homage of a Tudor. But in the truest sense of the word homage, this is giving me vibes, Tudor vibes a little bit. Again, no crown guards, the bezel, it just that classic case shape of this diver. So is this a Tudor homage? I don't know. I don't know if I can really classify it as that. Is it reminding me of it on some level? Yes. Would I rather wear this than a few $1,000 Black Bay? Abso-freaking-lutely. So for $207 US or 169 euros, I think this Forteller watches Cambrian is a very competent dive watch. There are some critiques, of course. Something about that date complication looks a little biased to the right as far as the date wheel inside that that window. But all in all, it's very clean. Everything else, as far as the finishing and fitment, look great. The bracelet is fine. I prefer it on the silicone strap, but of course, switching out the straps is a breeze. And the price point is there. If you're looking for an entryway into a very competent, functional diver under $300, this is a definite contender in that entry-level price range. So guys, as always, what do you think about this watch? Leave me a comment in the comment section below. Have a very happy new year. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this new installment for the new year of Microbrand Monday. More to come. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on this channel. So if you're new, we would love to see you join us this year. A whole bunch of content on the way. And if you want to go above and beyond in supporting us, please click the join button next to the subscribe button and hang out with us on the members only Discord chat. You get 6 pieces of content a week, and we hang out every week. We do a members only chat where we hang out and we talk about watches. We do power rankings of movies. For instance, in December, we did a members only power ranking of Christmas movies. It was a whole lot of fun. We did the same thing in October for Halloween spooky movies. So it's not just watches. We talk about the stock market. We talk about EDC items. We talk about photography and cars and food and anything that we want to talk about. It's all there on the members only Discord chat. So if you want to be a supporter of the channel and part of the T3 army, $4.99 a month really goes a long way for us. So thank you so much. Thank you to Forteller Watches for sending us this watch to review and sponsoring this episode. We really do appreciate it. And thank you, the viewer, for hanging out with me today. So guys, Happy New Year. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Jory Goodman, the time teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it. Let's make 2021 a good one.